witchcraft, overprotectiveness, or shaking off the expectations of others. Today, you will be surprised to find we are talking about Rapunzel. I've got my long sleeves on as well. You know the mess. Just, making an effort, man. So, it's a pretty dress, you just can't see, and I'm not standing up because there's notes all around me. So, today, talking about Rapunzel. We are going to start, and I found some fascinating research, my spooky pickles, because the actual beginning origins, what I could find far back as the 3rd century, not Mesopotamia this time. I do my research, it's not all Mesopotamia. I found out some wild things, so let's get into it. So, the first story isn't about anyone climbing up or down anyone's hair, but is about a virgin martyr called St. Barbara. I can't remember the first name, or couldn't find it. I didn't write it down, so anyway, I ain't gonna remember it. We all know this. So, she was born in the 3rd century, and I can't find loads of details, but basically, her father locked her up to protect her, innocence is the best way I can say that. We all know what that means. Doesn't mean shit, really, these days. But in those days, you had to be pure, you had to be sacred, all that. So, he locked her in a tower. But these things never work, do they? We all know it doesn't. So, it was said that it was like a really quite wealthy person who built this tower specifically for her, but there was lots of workers going on around the area that were in her dad's service, and they felt a bit sorry for her. So they let her out now and again to have a wander. I don't know if I'd find it worth it because her dad doesn't seem like the nicest person, but there you go, it never quite works out. As far as I can find, she stayed pure, is the best way I can put that. But she did decide to convert to Christianity, which at that time was quite radical. And what do we think Daddy thought about that? He was not a fan. No, he was not. So we found out. And as far as I can find, he found out and he caught her on one of her little wonders about. So what do we think happened? Do you think he just put her back in the tower? No, he didn't. Because he cared so much about her. But he thought, no, you've been tampered with, now you're out your tower. And you converted to the heathen Christianity. Can't have it. So what does he do? He lets the mob attack her, or gets the mob to attack her, cut her skin with knives, bruise her, beat her nearly half to death, but just before they do beat her to death, he tells her, no, stop. Do you think he protects her? Do you think he lets her just learn a lesson? No. He beheads her. Great parenting. But yeah, so that was the first mention of maidens being locked in towers that I could find, was this St. Barbara Virgin Martyr. So that was wild. I was like, oh, okay. You think the dad would want the best for her, like he'd want a good match for her to keep her, pure, and like, no, I know she's pure and virginal because she's been locked in a tower. Or even try to, marry her off to someone of lesser status because she's been seen wandering about, not doing nothing. But no, the best conclusion is to behead her. So, I couldn't find whether she had brothers or sisters. I hope she was an only child. That's all I'm going to say. So now, we're going to get on to the version most people know, which is the Brothers Grimm tale. I'm not going to talk about Disney. I do like Disney's Rapunzel, but I ain't got time for that on this channel. We ain't all about the airy-fairy nice happy endings here. We're not, I'm sorry. If you come for that, go somewhere else. We're a bit twisted up in here, so. Yes, the Brothers Grimm. The story goes, there's a man and a woman. The woman gets pregnant, and she really starts to crave rampion or parsley. It's this like lettucey, spinachy, herby thing. Either reference I've found, it's either been spinach, lettuce, or herb, usually parsley, or rampion, which is like a green bitter herb. So she really craves it, and she craves it so much that she gets ill. She can't eat, she can't sleep, she's gonna die. She does not get this rampion. So, of course, the husband loves her. She's pregnant. He doesn't want any harm to come to her. And where do you think it's growing? In a witch's garden, of course. It's witch's garden. Of course it is. Do you think he knocks on the witch's house, though, to ask, please, may I buy some or barter you for some of this rampion? No. That would be a smart thing to do, wouldn't it? He doesn't do that, though. Instead, he creeps into the witch's garden. You think a witch ain't going to find out? And steals it. Now, once or twice he does get away with it. But gets a bit brave, so when he goes back again, she catches him. And she says, you know what? Take as much as you like, it's fine. And he's very shocked. He's like, oh, okay, thank you. And she says, yeah, but in return, you've got to give me your firstborn child. Now, I already think she's fully aware that his missus is pregnant. They don't talk to the witch, obviously, because, if they did, they could have talked to her and asked her for the rampion, the parsley, whatever you call it. But you see, if he doesn't get the rampion, his missus is going to die. And also, if he doesn't agree with it, she'll probably do something unspeakable to him. So he really has to agree. Do you think he tells his wife? No, he doesn't. So when the little girl's born, in the Brothers Grimm version, it's Dame Gothel. She appears, takes the baby. Sorry, I need a drink. Takes the baby, goes and locks her up in a tower. We all know that bit. Of course, we all know the bit where Dame Gothel or Mother Gothel. The versions in Brothers Grimm call her Dame Gothel, so I'm going to call her Dame Gothel. So she comes and goes, bringing supplies for Rapunzel. She does the whole let down your hair thing, of course. We all know the prince eventually sees this. He's intrigued. Asks Rapunzel to let down her hair. Now, how Rapunzel is not confused that this is a man she does not know, not Dame Gothel, calling her name, I will never know. She's probably just bored and wants some attention. To be honest, I would be dying to speak to another human being, so she lets him up. And of course they fall in love and it's all beautiful, but it's the Brothers Grimm. So, things happen. I don't want my video to be suppressed by saying what happens. We all know. But boys and girls, hopefully more adult boys and girls, past the age of a certain age, get up to alone and supervised in a tower. The inevitable happens. She becomes pregnant. And Dame Gothel finds out there's a few different ways in the book. One of them, she compares Dame Gothel's weight to the prince's and outs herself. And in one, Dame Gothel notices, his dresses are getting a bit tight, growing around the middle there, what's going on? Oh, I know what's going on. Loses her mind, casts Rapunzel out, cuts her hair off, and so Rapunzel is just lost out in the wilderness, without anyone, pregnant, not knowing what the hell's going on. Dame Gothel keeps the hair, invites the prince up. Once he goes, oh, Rapunzel, let down your hair. Obviously, Dame Gothel still has the hair, lets it down. Prince comes up, finds out, oh no, it's not Rapunzel. It's Dame Gothel. The jig's up. Now, depending on the version you read, he either jumps from the tower. Why you do that, I don't know, instead of just trying to escape and find Rapunzel. But in others, she does tell him that she's dead, so I'd still take my chances and try and see if I could find her, because she's a witch. She's not the most honest person. And in others, he sort of gets into a tussle with Dame Gothel, and he gets pushed from the window. Whichever version you find, he ends up exiting from a tower window. Is he dead though? No, because it's the Brothers Grimm. Of course he's not dead. He's only fallen from a tower. He's just blind. Because, there's thorns at the bottom of the tower. He's still in full working order, apart from he can't see because the thorns have made him blind. That's all. So, he's wandering about in the wilderness, in the forest, not knowing what the hell's going on. Don't know why the king ain't looking for the prince at this point, but it's a story. And of course, Somehow Rapunzel ends up in the desert, because the desert's right near the forest in this story. She ends up in the desert, gives birth to twins on her own, not really even knowing what pregnancy is and what it involves, with no help. I don't even want to think about that, the poor girl. Whew. Anyway, she delivers these babies, and they're all surviving but struggling because the desert. And being a new mum, she has nothing. She has no one. The prince is wandering around blind. They eventually somehow come across each other because, actually I do know, because Rapunzel is singing to the babies, trying to soothe them and figure shit out basically. And he hears the singing. And he's like, oh, I know this voice. And they're reunited and it's beautiful. But he still can't see. But of course, this is where the magic comes in, because she's so sad that he's blind and he's hurt from his fall or his push or whatever it was, that she cries and her tears go down his face and clean his eyes. And then he can see. So maybe the thorns didn't blind him. Maybe he just got cut up and there was dried blood on his eyes and he couldn't see. And I'm quite pessimistic today, aren't I? What's wrong with me? I usually like these kind of things. Anyway, he can see again. It's a miracle. Lovely. That all ends happily ever after. He takes her back to his kingdom and they have the babies and it's all. That actually does end nicely. I know, I'm surprised as you for a Brothers Grimm tale. Now we're getting on to my favourite version of Rapunzel. Pardon me 1 minute. I've done a lot of talking today, right? My favourite version of this story, because there are many, and I could do easily an hours long video on this, but I'm not going to do that to you. But my favourite version in the world, and it is messed up, but I say that a lot, so I don't think you're surprised by hearing me say the thing that's my favourite is the messed up version. It's called Bitter Greens. I'm trying to find my notes because I don't want to miss anything because I get excited. Can you tell? Okay, so Bitter Greens is about a girl called Margarita. In this part of the story, she's not born. But basically, Margarita is Rapunzel. We'll get there. So, pretty similar to the Brothers Grimm version. Her mum's pregnant. Her dad is, desperate to look after his wife. She's getting sick again. She can see this rampion growing in the witch's garden. She just looks so tasty and delicious. She needs it. So, of course, like in the original, her husband, trying to be a good husband, goes to get the rampion. And the first time he gets away with it. But again, why these people don't have common sense? Don't steal from a witch. Don't steal anyway. Don't steal from a witch, though. For God's sake. But in this version, the witch has a name. And it is, I want to say it right, I'm just checking. Selena Leone. Leonelli. Celine Leonelli. I knew I'd get it wrong unless I looked. Or people refer to her as La Strega, or the witch. We covered that in my vampire stories, by the way. She's not a vampire, it's a whole story. Go watch my vampire origins. But La Strega, which means the witch, basically. Thoughtful people. So, she catches the dad and says to him, okay, you can take as much of these bitter greens as you want. Yeah, title name. But this is the deal. You take it, and I'll either cut off your hands, or you can give me the child that your wife is carrying. So, of course, he doesn't want to lose his hands. He doesn't want to go back empty-handed, in many senses of the word. You see what I did there? I know I'm so funny. So, of course, he finds himself in a bind, so he agrees to hand over his unborn daughter to Lestrega, or Selena. Do you think he tells his wife? In this one, I think he does. They're both aware that there's a ticking time bomb. But Lestrega does not say when she's coming. She just says, I will come when I'm ready, basically. Not that exact sentence, but basically that's what she says. I'll come get the kid when I'm ready to come get. So they don't know if they're just going to have this beautiful baby girl, because obviously that's what they end up having. They don't know if they're going to have her for 1 day, 1 year, and they get to her 8th birthday, and they're so happy that they've had 8 wonderful years with her. And the mother is terrified every day that the Strega is going to come for her daughter, and of course, just after the 8th birthday, who comes knocking on the door? Selena Leoloni. The Strega is come to collect the child, because 8 is the magic number apparently in the story. So, obviously the parents are heartbroken, but what are they going to do against a powerful witch? Because she's very powerful in the story as well. I'm not going to get into the whole backstory of the story, but it's amazing. If you want to read it, I suggest you do. Bitter Greens, Kate Forsyth, amazing. Very dark though, I'm going to warn you. Are you surprised? Look whose channel you're on. So, she takes, obviously she's born and she has a name, Margarita. She takes her to the tower. And this is where it gets different from the Brothers Grimm, but I like it because it's weird. So, she does have lots of hair, and it's not golden in this, it's red or copper. And instead of just growing out her hair naturally, she attaches other people's hair to this girl's hair. Now, I think she does it with magic, and it's sort of woven in, sort of like a weave, but not with the technology, like magic. And sometimes she'll braid the hair, and sometimes she'll put it in like a pretty net with like that has pearls and stuff, and it's beautiful, and it's sort of like, it's like a magical hairnet. I'm not saying it as well as the story will, but this beautiful, decorative, magical hairnet, or she'll braid it. But her hair is long, but not as long as it would have been with all this extra hair. And some of it's more coppery, some of it's more golden coppery, some of it's deep red, some of it's blood red. And she has all these different colours of threads running through her hair now. And I believe it's sort of like a binding thing to bind the witch to previous things this witch has done to other girls, clearly. And herself to Margarita. I believe that anyway. It's also sort of putting, I feel like it's a metaphor for putting her expectations and her weight onto her. It is saying like you can't get anywhere, you got all this hair to drag about. It's literally putting something on her, like a tag. So, that's what happens there. Checking my notes, sorry. So in this story, again, the Strega does come and go, like Mother Gothel. She'll spend days at a time in the tower. And, she gives her a new name, called Petra Selina, meaning little parsley. I do believe I'm correct in saying that. So she's no longer Margarita. She's Petra Selina. And that's how she must be referred to, and refer herself as. So on one of the times that the Strega's off doing whatever she's doing, you'll find out if you read the story, I'm not going to spoil that. She comes and goes, she's off doing what she's doing. And of course, we all know the prince is going to turn up. And he climbs Rapunzel's hair, and he gets in, and they make friends, and they make more than friends, and that. Yeah, that part is the same. And he's like, okay, I'm a prince, I have all this wealth, all this power, just come with me, I can free you, we can live together and be a family. He wants to save her. But she's so terrified of the Strega, of Selena, because she is powerful. And Selena told her, if you ever defy me and leave me, there will be repercussions, and I have put a curse on you in tying this hair to you. You cannot leave this tower. So the prince says, okay, I will find some mystics to break this curse. And because he's obviously got a lot of contacts and he's powerful, he seeks out many mystics, many magicians, wizards, all that. And they say they've either broken it or they can't, because the power is in Petra Selina's mind. Only she can break the curse. So, he goes back and he tells her this. And at this point, of course, she's going to have babies. And she's getting big. So time's running out. He's like, come on, you can do this. You have the power to break this curse, to break this spell. You can do it. But of course, she's terrified. Because she's well aware of what the Strega is capable of. And also in a weird way, she has been the one to look after her after all these years, so she's sort of got a weird Stockholm syndrome vibe going on with her. But of course, Listrega finds out she's pregnant, similar to some other Gothel, loses her shit. But instead of cutting off Petra Selina's hair, they sort of get into a scuffle. And Petra Selina uses this like magical hairnet to sort of trap the witch. I'm not going to spoil it and give you all the details, but she's incapacitated anyway. And Margarita at this point, because she's decided to reclaim herself, which I love. I love it when a female protagonist saves themselves and reclaims their own power. In case you haven't guessed by now, all the stories I've covered, if you haven't watched them, watch them. You get the vibe. I'm quite feminist. I'm sorry if that offends anyone. Give over. But I love it when a female character, or any character, but, you know, in a lot of these stories, the females are suppressed. I love it when they save themselves, or they reclaim themselves, or they figure shit out for themselves. I love it. Everyone has their own power. She realises her own power. She goes off. She decides to cut this hair off herself because she realises she can. So now it's just her own hair on her head, which is weird, isn't it? Carrying around. I think in the book it's like around 20 different girls' hair. So now she's just carrying her own hair around. It's a wild sentence to say, isn't it? Still long, but not that crazy long. She goes off to try to find the prince. But similar to the Brothers Grimm version, the prince comes looking for Petra Selina. And who's there? The Strega's there. Of course, something similar happens. They get in a scuffle, he jumps. I think in this version, he is pushed. Either way, he falls out the tower. He's blind. Petra Selina, or now, Margarita, is wandering about in the forest, the desert, whatever you want to call it. And she's had the babies. Again, it's twins. And again, the prince finds her because she's singing and soothing her babies. And again, in this version, surprisingly, they do live happily ever after. He takes her back to his kingdom and they have the babies and everything all works out. And I love that. But she saved herself. Just in case anyone wasn't clear on that. So, what I've looked up the meanings to be, and I'm going to give you my opinion, of course I am. The meanings of all the versions of Rapunzel that I've told you symbolise overprotectiveness and a metaphor for freedom and desire. So obviously the desire to be free, but the desire to express yourself. None of these girls are allowed to be themselves. They are told, this is who you are. I've claimed you before you're even born. You must be pure and sacred and virginal and holy, or I'll chop your head off. You can't even desire to be the own religion you want to be in, for God's sake. So it represents desire and freedom. And overprotectiveness, obviously, in all versions, Mother Gothel, Lestrega, and in this messed up version of the Martyr Saint Barbara, there's overprotectiveness and it just doesn't work well for anyone, does it? Specifically poor Saint Barbara. I feel so bad for the girl. But my thoughts are realising your own power. I think that's what it symbolises. Like self-realisation. Owning who you are. And yes, desire, but the desire to be allowed to just express yourself. And allowed to be your own person without, no, this is your name now. You're not Margarita, you're Petra Selina. Or, you are now my wife. No, she freed herself. She gave birth to babies on her own in the wild, whether it was the forest or a desert. She did that. She was powerful by herself. And then she went with the prince. The prince didn't just take her, she went with him because she wanted to. And they lived happily ever after. But she owned her own power. She broke the curse that the Strega put on her. She freed herself. And I love that. What was the other? Did I put anything else off? Oh, shaking off the weight of expectations. I knew I'd forget. This is where I write down. I forget my own thoughts, guys. I think the hair represents, yes, the literal tying to and like bonding ritual sort of magic thing that she did, that the Strega did to Petroselina. Yes, it did actually tie her to her, but I think it's also a metaphor, in my opinion. I haven't looked it up, it's just my thoughts. Shaking off the weight of expectations of society, especially in that day and age, because it's all like, 15th, 16th century based stories. And it's the weight of society. Like, you have to be pure, you have to be virginal, you have to do this, you have to do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. Shaking off the weight of, I can own my own power. I do not need you or you to tell me I am this person, I am that person, I can do this, I can't do that. Shaking that off and reclaiming who you are. And I believe, to me, that's what it represents. And that's why I love it so much. Other people might get something else. I don't know. These are just my thoughts, my feelings, and the research I have found. If you have any more and you want me to know or do more on it, let me know. If you disagree with my opinions, let me know. If you like my opinions, let me know. Let's have a chat. But that was the twisted tale of Rapunzel, Petroselina, or Margarita, whichever version you want to read. Oh, and we cannot forget St. Barbara, because she was real. She was a real historical figure. You can look that up. And I do genuinely feel bad for her. So, everyone take a minute and have a thought for the poor kid, because, Jesus. I'm not being sarcastic either. Like, yeah. Everyone, but especially women in that day and age, suffered through some shit. So, we can't forget her. So I hope you all enjoyed the story time. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you all like learning these twisted fairy tales with me, which is really just the original versions. I usually like retellings of the original versions, but that's just because I'm a little bit kooky and I like different opinions. Can you tell? Anyway, have a good rest of your day, and I shall see you soon, my spooky pickles. Toodly pips.